ready?
Yes,
Very good. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Alex Marion, the Syracuse City Auditor. I'm here to tell you about the latest report my office has put out. Look, the city of Syracuse is undergoing a major transformation. We're becoming a city where small things on wheels, e-bikes, bikes, scooters, skateboards, mobility devices, are becoming an ever greater presence on our roads and is part of our transportation landscape. This poses a lot of opportunity, but a lot of challenges as well. How do we build the next generation of infrastructure aimed at making our roads and public spaces shareable for everyone who needs and wants to use them in the ways they need and want to use them? My latest report, my 9th since taking office, we take a deep dive into the state of the city's bike infrastructure and where we go next. That report is right here, Incomplete Streets, takes that deep dive into the infrastructure we need and where it needs to go. We first saw bike lanes in Syracuse around 2006, and over the next several years, in part thanks to the Connective Corridor, which is where we're located today, we saw investments. This is often using money from the federal government and from federal Tiger grants. We saw the growth of bike infrastructure and other kinds of transportation infrastructure. Right here, what we're next to today, this is known as a cycle track. It's a dual lane bike lane that's protected from traffic by a median that separates it from actual oncoming vehicles. That's the gold standard in bike infrastructure because it's a safe route, bikes can go in multiple directions, and it keeps it safe from oncoming and cross traffic. The city of Syracuse pursued a bike plan as part of its comprehensive plan back in 2012 that laid out a path towards many more miles of bike lanes. And you're going to hear from him in just a minute, but we've got former Common Councilor Bob Doherty, who worked on the bike plan with the city of Syracuse and helped pass it back in the day. The city pursued that bike plan, and when we did an analysis of it, we found that 11% of the projects contained in that plan have come to fruition. Unfortunately, more than 70% have not even been started yet, which is concerning. To the city's credit, they have pursued other bike projects and bike infrastructure projects across the city of Syracuse, but they have not been the projects that were laid out as part of the comprehensive plan. So one of my recommendations is that the city of Syracuse pass a new comprehensive bike plan that looks at the next generation of bike infrastructure and the next generation of where those lanes need to go, and that once they do enact such a plan, they stick to it and that it goes forward and we keep doing the work to bring that to fruition. Within an updated bike plan, I'm calling on the city to prioritize protected bike lanes and painted bike lanes so that we have the best, clearest, and safest bike infrastructure available to riders. This is needed to save lives and make our shared spaces safer. We are also recommending improvements to the capital planning process to ensure there's greater transparency in how bike projects move forward. Right now, many minor improvements, like painted sharrows, little arrows with a bike picture on them that you see on some roads, they're included as part of other projects, like Complete Streets projects. But there's not always a clear understanding or delineation of where our bike infrastructure dollars are going. We're also recommending that capital projects which the city bonds for are completed in the year the bonding happens, so we save money on carried interest costs. Because right now, as we revealed earlier this year in my budget analysis, the cost of interest on bonding is going up dramatically for the city of Syracuse because this is not a great bond market. I also believe we need to update our traffic code, which was first written in the 1960s. It's time to overhaul that so it reflects modern, safer bike infrastructure, and that we have the traffic code we need for the next generation of our streets. We need to have a unique blocking our bike lane violation so that if folks are parked in bike lanes, they can specifically be ticketed for that offense. We also need to do more to enforce the existing no standing zones, which are, many bike lanes are labeled as no standing zones, to ensure that we have safe routes for folks to go. I'm pleased to say the administration is eager to do this. They have told me they've committed in their response to my report to improve enforcement. And they're looking to do more civilian enforcement of bike lane violations, because this actually echoes recommendations I put out in my earlier report on parking tickets. It echoes recommendations we put out in our earlier report on police staffing. We should have more civilian parking enforcement to ensure that our bike lanes remain clear and open for everyone to use. We also need to ensure that contractors who cut into our roadways make proper restorations. As we were coming up here today, I drove by on Fayette Street, a number of different places where you have this lovely green painted bike lane just going ahead, and suddenly it's cut up, there's uneven pavement, and it's not been repainted. We need the city of Syracuse to hold contractors responsible for the work that they do in our right-of-way, in our bike lanes. I'm urging the Common Council to pursue an ordinance to hold contractors responsible. In the same way that if you had work done on your house that was not up to par, you would hold your contractor responsible. The city needs to hold its contractors responsible. And finally, we need to have a better plan for snow removal in our bike lanes. Bike lanes cannot just become shoulders where we push the snow aside into. We are the snowiest big city in North America, but we are not the only city that gets real winter weather. We're not the only city that has a thriving bike culture. Look at Minneapolis, look at Montreal. I had the opportunity to visit Montreal over the summer. I got to experience it. I rode a bike there. You know, they have a thriving bike culture in these places, and they have figured out good ways to do snow removal. They have devices that can, like little caterpillar scoops that can clear these out. We need to do more of that here in Syracuse. Let me just say finally, we're a 21st century city on the move. And when we're on the move, we are riding, we are cycling, we are walking, we are a multimodal transportation city. And so with that, we need to have the transportation infrastructure, including better bike lanes, to get everyone to their destination. So with that, let me introduce a couple of folks here who can share the experience. First, I want to bring up Councilor Doherty, who is the ultimate expert in how we did this back in the day.
Well, thanks. I'm Bob Doherty, former counselor, like he said. Just a couple things I'd like to say. First of all, I'd like to thank the auditor's office and Alex for taking this on and maybe jump-starting some conversations about bicycles in the city. One thing I always tell people, a lot of people think, well, there aren't that many bike riders. Well, let me tell you that anything that's good for bike riders or pedestrians is good for cars. You know, mainly slowing people down. It's good for everybody. And where I come from, Pedals to Possibilities is our program at Brady Face Center. We work basically with people facing homelessness, lower economic people that maybe can't afford a bike. They can earn a bike with us at Brady. And the thing that people have to realize is, bikes are not toys. They're used for recreation. Our people down at Brady and the people at the Rescue Mission and Catholic Charity Shelter, that bike that's their source of transportation. And it's their source of transportation 365 days a year. So the comments about clearing snow are right on. So this is something that it affects everybody. That's why I'm passionate about it. Like I said, maybe this will jumpstart things. Maybe the present counselors, I know they're busy, but maybe they can take more of an interest in this. So thanks again. All right, thank you.
Isn't he the best? He just is the best. And something he mentioned is something else that bears repeating. 25% of people in the city of Syracuse do not have cars. They're reliant on other sources of transportation, like our bus network, like our bike network, to get around the city. So we need to ensure the quarter of the people in the city of Syracuse who use other forms of transportation have that option. Next, I want to bring up Alex Lawson. He's a local bike advocate and has done some great things on wheels.
Some great things on wheels. I mean, I also want to thank the auditor for doing this report. I mean, I think that you see the city's interested in bike infrastructure. We have some of it, but it's just never been a priority. Like, this cycle track is great. I use it. It's my daily commute, and I feel safe on it. But you get to the end of it, and it just sort of, that's it. You take the Empire State Trail sometimes, and it's like, yeah, that's really nice, but you have to actually get somewhere else. There's nothing else there. And so, SU asked for this, the state built that, but what is the city doing? What is the city prioritizing to have a citywide network so that we can get between neighborhoods, we can get where we need to go? Just off the top of my head, I can think of 4 bike fatalities in the last couple of years. Someone died on South Alliance Street, someone got hit and killed on West and Fayette, someone got hit and killed on Almond Street. There was a little girl who got hit on Lodi. Where the city wants to put bike lanes but just hasn't done it yet. And so to me, the problem is just it's a lack of prioritization, because we have the plan, we know it needs to be done, it's not very complicated, but it's just not being done. And so I'm also hopeful that this report can be the start of something where we say, this is a priority for us. This is how we're gonna protect people who get around this way, because many of us do. This is much as my primary mode of transportation in the city, and it's something we absolutely have to do a better job on.
We've got another local bike rider and advocate, John Sexton, here.
Hi, I want to thank Alex. I think the city's done a great job with sidewalks, and I think it's time for them to start doing more with bike lanes. Biking is so good for everything and everybody. It's good for your health, it's good for your mental health, your physical health. It's good for your pocketbook because it's a lot cheaper to ride a bike than it is to drive a car. It's good for the environment because you're not burning fuels. And it's just good all the way around. It takes cars off the road, which makes it safer. Cars are aware of bikes, they slow down, so it makes it safer. There's so many benefits to bicycling. It's great to see that Alex is initiating this, resparking the interest in the bike program in Syracuse. I think that's great. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. And finally, we've got Chris here from Advanced Cyclery, which is a longtime bike store over on Seeley Road here in the city of Syracuse. So, Chris.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Gaylor. I'm with Advanced Cyclery. I'd like to also thank Alex for this report today. I would just like to say that, working in a local bicycle shop here in Syracuse, I've seen a huge upturn in bicycling in the city with families as well. So, these cycle lanes are important because it's not just adults commuting to work or students commuting to school, but it's families as well. And it's very important that we make sure that, our children are safe while cycling with us too. So these cycle lanes being separate from the roads are just very important for overall safety for everyone. And then of course, with electric bikes now too, getting them off the roadway when they're traveling at a higher speed than normal bicycles also helps to keep those riders safe as well. So we're just very excited to see that the city is taking a big initiative to try and push forward on these cycle lanes and keeping everybody else safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions if you have them.
How does this fit in with the Zero?
Division Zero
Yes.
plan. So I think this is improving bike infrastructure is definitely a part of the Vision Zero plan, because as you heard Alex say, there have been bike fatalities when bikes and cars have run into one another. We need to make sure that we have safe spaces available for our riders. We need to make sure that we have the overall infrastructure to keep folks safe. I think dedicated cycle tracks like the one you see right here in front of us, where you have the bike lane separated by a physical barrier, like a median, is the right way to go. We need more of that in more places, and having more, this will help us get to our Vision Zero goals. I also think an overall revision of the traffic code is going to make a difference, because if we can get the traffic code for the city of Syracuse revised, we can then have the rules in place that make more sense for a modern, multimodal, not car-dependent city. I've actually reached out to some of the folks from Vision Zero to talk about what options we have in front of us to ensure that this is something we can prioritize and make sure we get the details right, because the details when it comes to bike infrastructure really, really matter.
Clarification.
Yeah.
Before, in discussion of the electric bikes, would this bike plan, like with these tracks, also include that for electric bikes?
Yeah,
or is that...
you can ride your electric bike, your electric scooter in a bike lane. We need to make sure that folks who are riding in these spaces, they're riding the right vehicles, but obviously the electric bikes, which we're right next to, they can go in there. We need to make sure that those folks are kept safe. Our report also makes some recommendations about the VO scooters in the city of Syracuse, to make sure that they are ensuring their members are safe and following the rules appropriately, but that our rules properly reflect the fact that there is a proliferation of these scooters and devices in our community now.
this is not cheap. Where's the city supposed to get the money? You mentioned a lot of the other ones come from the state and federal government.
Yes, well, we should be pursuing additional state and federal dollars, to make sure that we are building out our bike infrastructure. What we're next to right here was built with a Tiger Grant, which was federal DOT money that was made available during the Obama administration. I am not hopeful, but ready to work with our partners in the federal government to ensure the next federal administration, the incoming administration, makes investments in public transportation, in multimodal transportation, because we need it. We need it for our city. We need it so folks can get around. We need it to meet our climate goals. So I really want them to be able to invest in this. I'm hoping the states can do it, the federal government can do it, and we need to see that money made available. We also often do bonding for these projects. And like I said, I think we need to be more mindful of the bonding we do going forward, because we are spending more and more money on interest. Interest rates have gone up in recent years. We understand that, we know that, but we need to make sure that when we are bonding, we are putting that money to work as quickly as possible, because the longer we hold on to it, the more we end up paying in interest and the less actual work we can do. So between getting federal resources for these, plus getting our bonding squared away, making sure we're doing the work effectively and efficiently, that'll give us the ability to do more of this work.
You were referencing plans early 2000s about the city expanding bike lanes. Was there any, in terms of mileage or specific plans that were planned that just never happened?
Yeah, so in the report we detail where we've seen some of these programs and projects happen. So we have seen a couple different efforts to put a bike connector up on Lodi Street. There was a plan that was surfaced in the original bike plan to put a greenway, which is some bike infrastructure in the Strathmore and Elmwood neighborhoods. That's never come to fruition. Like I said, in the original bike plan, 70% of those projects have yet to see the light of day. That doesn't mean we haven't done more. There certainly are more that have happened. But that's why I think we need to overhaul that plan now to say, what are we actually going to commit to doing? And then what are we going to be able to do going forward? What are the new ideas? What are the projects that make sense now that we're kind of on the next generation of bike infrastructure?
We feel there's money there, but there would be more money needed, whether other government sources, state or federal?
Absolutely, there will be more money needed, and we need our state and federal partners to be actively involved and engaged in this conversation. We need the state and federal government to prioritize multimodal transportation. Albany and Washington need to know that people are getting around Syracuse not just with cars. We need to end the dependence on car culture that is so pervasive in the minds of Albany and Washington policymakers. We need to get those resources put into these lanes and into other pieces of multimodal infrastructure to make our communities safer and moving around in ways that are how they're moving around.
Do you know how much bike lanes are part of the plan for the community grid?
I think that there's some of that is still being worked out, but I think that now that we are moving forward with the community grid, we should be incorporating what that's going to look like into a bike plan for the city of Syracuse.
What year was the original bike plan? What year was that?
2012.
2012, so it's 12 years old?
Yes.
Part of the comprehensive plan, I believe it's supposed to go to 2035, is when it was supposed to go to. And, a lot of it's pie in the sky stuff. It's been now 12 years. So a lot of it has not been done, unfortunately. And I know the pandemic got in the way of a lot of things. But I think a lot of it is a lot of people don't take cycling seriously.
Bob was a biker. Where do we really, what's the biggest area where we really
The toughest thing for people is to get through downtown. It always is. There were some great plans about where to go, but signage is, people come through here every year on the Erie Canal ride, and most of them dread the city of Syracuse. In other cities maybe it goes around the outside. Some people love it because it comes through downtown. But try to figure out where you're going. There's places where it goes up on the sidewalk. There's also, it goes through Clinton Square, which is closed half the year. And actually we tried to tell the state not to do that, but it looked good on a map, like a lot of things do.
Specifically spoke about traffic codes and the need to update traffic codes to include bikes in the plans. Is there anything in particular that jumps out from those codes last time in the 1960s that needs to
jumps out to me is you don't see the word bicycle in it. I believe when we looked at it, the word bicycle is mentioned once, twice. We need to make sure that our traffic code is comprehensive of everything that's on our roads. It's comprehensive of bike lanes. It's comprehensive of e-bikes and scooters. It's comprehensive of buses. We need to make sure that we have a traffic code that prioritizes bus travel through the city. So we have a good network of buses that aren't just meandering through traffic waiting for everyone else. We need to make sure that as we move towards bus rapid transit, which needs to happen a little bit faster, we need to make sure that we're prioritizing bus access in traffic lanes as well. So overall, we need to make sure our traffic code prioritizes pedestrians and crosswalks and signalization for all of that. So yeah, we need to make sure that our traffic code isn't just about how to get cars from point A to point B and letting them park in all of these different places. We need to make sure our traffic code is focused on actually delivering for everyone that uses our roadways and open spaces.
You've issued a lot of reports on various topics.
9 so far.
9 so far, all right, and counting. So, what's the reception then by either the mayor's office or even common councilors when you issue these reports?
Look, I'm pleased to say that the administration has been a very open-minded partner. They are eager to have feedback. They take feedback very well. I think we have moved past the dynamic of past auditors and administrations where it is adversarial and personality-based. We can all look at our data and talk about shared ideas and shared solutions. I always would encourage them to adopt our recommendations and proceed with them quickly, but they're an open, willing partner. I think on the council, we've got folks who are, a lot of folks who have different policy priorities. It's a group of 10 people, so I think if you ask 10 people their opinion, you're going to get about 12 different responses. So I'm always ready and willing to speak with them, have committee meetings, share this information with them. And I speak to many of the council members on a pretty regular basis about what their interests are and how they can take some of our recommendations and operationalize them.
Timeline. I mean, how does the city is happening? It takes a while to make a change.
But I mean, some of these things are going to take time. But government is there to be investing our time into the work. Overall, the traffic code, that'll take some real time. Something we can do quickly. We could pass a blocking a bike lane violation next week. That's pretty simple. We can work on improving civilian enforcement of parking rules and regulations. I've now done 2 reports that touch on how to improve civilian parking enforcement. We've got all those ideas there. It's just a matter of how we operationalize them and how we put different departments to work doing that the right way.
There's a police department right now.
What?
There's a police department right now that does this.
So right now, police officers, sworn officers, are able to do parking enforcement. They largely don't. We have mostly civilian employees do that. There are parking checkers. And their main focus is meter enforcement. You could work on things like changing their schedule, changing their supervision. What we recommended was getting the parking checkers entirely out of the police department, so it doesn't need to be a police overseen activity, and moving them over to a civilian department like DPW, or even creating an entirely new department of, parking and transportation, so all of this can live under the same roof and be coordinated.
There's been recent conversation also about increasing the amount of Veo bikes that we have in the city here. What would your response be in terms of that before all of this is done?
Well, I think that bike sharing is an important part of our equation. Bike sharing is a good program, and we've got to get it right. We've got to get the details right. In this report, we expressed some concerns about the contract. For example, they have a non-compete clause. So if Bird or Lime or one of the other companies express an interest in operating in Syracuse, they would not be able to do so. I have an issue with that because I think competition is inherently good for market forces. I also have some concerns that they have issued thousands of violations for people who have misused them or parked in the wrong places. They will fine their users. We don't get a cut of that revenue. I think we should be getting a cut of that revenue. We can put that towards improvements on long way to go to making this a more effective and efficient program. I am all for having more of it. We just have to get it right. And like I said, details matter when it comes to our bikes and our roadways. Anyone else? Anyone else, or is it bagel time? Great. Thank you all.